Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, May 27th in the year 2025, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Tom. Well, I hope you all had a good holiday weekend. I surely did, and that's another subject for another day. But I'm a little ahead of the game today as we near the end of May and head into June. I'd like to take a look at ahead to an upcoming Father's Day celebration on June 15th. I've been very fortunate in my life to have some influential men who took me under their wings and who assisted me in getting where I am today, both professionally and personally. I'm a big believer in thanking those who are responsible for helping us along the way. So I have been fortunate. Some call it lucky, but I've heard luck been described as when your preparation meets your opportunity. These men in my life made sure I was prepared when the opportunity came along. So here we go. John Rigrish. John Rigrish taught me a lot about not only how to survive in corporate America, but how to thrive in corporate America. John was my boss at Bell South Services, and that term is correct. But John was more than my boss. He was and is still my friend. He taught me how to manage those above me in the food chain. John reported to the president of the company. I reported to John. It was a great ride, and I thank him to this day. Hugh Jacks was the president of Bell South Services. And about a year ago, the three of us, John and Mr. J, as I called him, had lunch in Birmingham. John and Mr. J were very important in my life, and I thank both of them for their contributions to my life. Carol O'Connor, yes, that Carol O'Connor. Carol O'Connor hired me to work on his show In the Heat of the Night. Carol looked out for Ted. Ted Marcus was my character's name on the show. I did 25 episodes for Carol, and it led me to a career where I've done some 60 episodes of television and a dozen or so movies. We primarily shot in the heat of the night in Covington and Conyers, Georgia, but there were episodes we shot in Los Angeles, and Carol would send the limo to my home in Birmingham and have me flown out to Los Angeles. I learned a lot by watching how Carol reacted with his fans and writing script. Like I said, Carol O'Connor taught me a lot. Richard Porter, or should I say Coach Richard Porter. Coach Richard Porter was my high school basketball coach during the integration of high school sports in my hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. I could talk to Coach Porter. I could sit in his office in the gym and talk about what was happening in our city. It was the 1960s. As a freshman, when our first game rolled around, the school we were scheduled to play in their gym sent word that I could not play in their gym. I was our lone black player at the time. They sent word that not only would I not be able to play in their gym, I couldn't even set foot in their gym. And Coach Porter had to break that heartbreaking news to me the day before our first game. It hurt. But like I said, we could talk. And I remember his words. He said, Thomas, these games we are playing, as we discussed integration, are more important than who wins and who loses. We're changing a way of life in Birmingham. From that game on, I played every game, including against a team that refused to let me play in their gym when they came to play in our gym. Coach made me a promise that day. He said, when we play that team in our gym, Thomas, you're going to be playing and we're going to kick their ass. And we did. Thank you, Coach Porter. Mr. Yeager. Mr. Yeager made me his ice cream salesman. I drove one of his ice cream trucks 2 summers in Birmingham. All over the city, I went selling ice cream while I was still in high school. Mr. Yeager challenged me to compete with the grown men who sold the ice cream for a living. Could I get in the top 10 as a salesman? I did, and I'm still proud of that. Mr. Lewis Willie gave me business advice when I started my business that has grown into Best Girl Inc. 38 years ago. I was invited to join the Downtown Rotary Club not very long after starting the business. My money was tight. I'd taken what savings I had in the company savings plan at Bell South and started the business. Mr. Willie, I went to see him And I said, Mr. Willie, they want me to join the Rotary Club, but I don't know if I can afford that. And Mr. Willie said, Tom, I don't know if you can afford not to. He changed my thinking. He taught me to invest in myself. It was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. Just a couple of more. Head Auburn football coach Ralph Shook Jordan. Coach Jordan gave me the opportunity to walk onto his football team at Auburn University. 10 months later, after a freshman season of football and a spring training with the varsity, Coach rewarded me with a full scholarship for the next 4 years. He took that financial burden off of my parents. I became only the second black player to ever play for Coach. I started for him for 3 years and became the first black athlete to graduate from Auburn University. Dr. John Nixon. Dr. Nixon told me I could run my business and become an actor. Don't give up either, he told me. I didn't, and it led me to retirement as an actor, secured insurance for my family, and secured me a pension from the Screen Actors Guild. Also, just last week, I had a recent call in relation to a friend who also was one of my college coaches, Doug Barfield. Doug Barfield may have saved my football career as I was ready to move on after my redshirt junior year, 1973. It was an absolute miserable year. We ended up 6-6. We never had a losing record, but we ended up 6-6, and we didn't have any fun being 6-6. Especially when the 2 years previous we had been 9-2 and 10-1. The following year we were 10-2. But 1973, we were a divided bunch. We had different factions on that team. Plus, I got hurt and I missed 3 games. And when you're hurt, you can't help the team. And the coaches look at you funny. There was limited communications from my coaches. There was a lot of backbiting amongst the team. At the Sun Bowl that year, Coach Barfield sought me out. He referenced he might be offensive coordinator the next year, and he would want me as a part of his offense. We had an older man, younger man relationship. We could talk. I listened. We talked. From that moment on to this day, we've had a great relationship. He gave me leadership responsibilities in that year. That year we went 10-2 and finished number 8 in the country, and I was a big part of that. And I thank Coach Barfield for that. There were several traits that I admired about these men. There were several. They were not liars. They respected others. They didn't use the power of their position to berate others. They cared about the big picture and trying to help people. None of these men either used or curried favor with racism to further their own goals. They assisted me as I climbed the ladder of achievement. I am grateful that our paths crossed. There were others who taught me about opportunity, whether it was welcome or not, and I thank them all. So, speaking of accomplished men, our G-list guest today is Dr. Horace F. Whittaker, Jr. He is the founder of BALLLS Publishing LLC, which envisions, creates, and disseminates useful content to help us better understand the context in which we live, in order to make better decisions for the good of the public and our habitat. ThoughtsForLiving.com exhibits his work in diverse media formats, including books and music, text, and podcasts, and is the primary digital reservoir presenting ecological consciousness theory, ECT, the innovative and theoretical framework he developed from his doctoral research. We look forward to having that conversation. Our show today, of course, is brought to you by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. So let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girls team of consultants led by Joyce Gilly Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girls customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Girl continues to customize the solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable discussion this morning with Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker. Good morning, Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Oh, doing well. How you all?
Doing well. Doing well. Good morning, Barbara. Good morning, TG.
Good morning. So did you guys have a good holiday weekend?
I did. Mine was quiet. I actually stayed in town for once. I actually volunteered some for the SEC baseball tournament that was held here in Birmingham on last week. So I stayed in town all weekend, spent some time with family and friends, and it was a great weekend.
Did your home recognize you, Barbara?
No, not at all. I won't be here long, so it doesn't matter.
You didn't have any crises, right?
No crisis, thank God. None. No state fights, no water backup, no issues. So I'm good physically.
Michael, how about you?
I had a pretty good weekend. You know, when there's no drama, it's a good weekend as far as I'm concerned, just pretty easy. So
a quiet weekend is a good weekend, huh?
Yes, absolutely. Hey, even the scammers took off, man. They didn't call me yesterday.
Hey,
like they hadn't totally taken off. You didn't get any phone calls.
Me. I had 3 calls yesterday.
Yeah, I was gonna say they took off from Michael, but not from the rest of us.
Don't you take off sometimes?
I was so happy I couldn't believe it. My phone did not ring from a scammer.
The phone wasn't ringing, Michael, but there's a new scammer out now. Google's issued a statement saying that their email customers, people who have Gmail accounts, may receive an email from scammers saying that there's something wrong with their link to their Gmail account. They had to go into this particular link. They said it looks so official, like it came from Gmail, and they're advising their customers not to click that link because it's definitely a scam. They're not taking time off. They're just finding new ways to do it now.
I hear you.
I think, when you talk about opportunity, I think we all are blessed in the fact that that's not a job that we have to do.
Thank God.
I would hate to have that job.
I know.
You call people and you don't even ask to speak to whomever you're calling. You just start with this spiel.
Start talking.
And, oh, man.
When you answer the phone, you hear that little bleep right at the beginning. I just automatically hang up. I was like, I don't want to talk to them. Whoever it might be, it's not for me.
Yeah, a couple of times I let them have it. But,
I saw something on social media the other day said that to get back at the scammers who are calling them, they talk about their mama. So when they start talking about the scam, whatever it is, they said they start talking about their mama real bad, and they usually hang up.
Oh, they'll have to try that one. That's a good one.
I've used that one before. But on a serious note, guys, there's a guy, his name is Jared Shaw. He was a former top 100 basketball recruit. Unfortunately, earlier this month, he was arrested in Indonesia for allegedly attempting to smuggle illegal drugs. Mm. He's playing basketball overseas, and he could actually face the death penalty if he's convicted.
Wow.
As the Southeast Asian nation enforces strict drug laws, with some convicted smugglers executed by a firing squad, according to the report. Shaw is only 34 years old. He's played for several teams in Indonesia since 2022. Most recently, the Tangerang Hawks before his arrest on May 7th. Police raided his apartment and found 132 pieces of cannabis candy.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
The police chief told the Associated Press that Shaw's arrest followed a tip from customs officials who flagged a suspicious package he had allegedly received from Thailand.
Wow.
Shaw could face up to the death penalty, as I said, if found guilty. You know, and you don't hear anything about this on the news.
No.
Where's America now for this young brother?
Right. I was going to say,
Okay.
don't they have an embassy there that could assist him in some way?
I would think so. You know, they went got Brittany Griner,
Right.
and they're trying to get other. We have a young brother over there now. Let's see what's going to happen with him.
So, Michael, was he bringing it into Indonesia to sell in Indonesia?
No, that's what they're trying to say, but it looks as though it was sent to him from somebody else. He didn't bring it in, but because he received it, okay, as he was going through the airport. So I don't know, however, they arranged for this. So automatically that was to be smuggled in order to sell or traffic is the way he's looking. So I don't know what kind of attorney he has, if he has an attorney, because countries like that are not like America, where if you're a foreign person in this country and you get caught up, there's attorneys that will come and represent you.
Right.
You know, don't know if that's
Michael,
the case for him.
Did you say it was 132 pieces of candy?
132 pieces
that's
of cannabis.
That's not enough to really sell. So I mean, that's just maybe for his personal use. I mean, I can't see unless it was their huge pieces of candy. I don't think it was.
That's the thing. You think about pieces of candy. You all, think of a piece of candy that you just hold in your hand. And I mean, you can get a bag of candy with, 50, 100 pieces in it.
Exactly.
Don't know. Wow. But, the thing that bothers me the most is 34-year-old brother from America is playing basketball over there. And so now this is on him and he could face the death penalty.
Oh my God.
By firing squad. And I don't hear anything from the current administration on this.
Wow.
But I guess because he's not a rapper and doing all the crazy stuff like Kanye West, he won't get any help from the current administration.
I hope he has family members that are really fighting for him and advocating for him, because that's what it's going to take. They're going to have to reach out to the government and hopefully force them to assist him in the situation, because if he doesn't have an advocate here fighting for him, chances are they're not going to do anything.
Well, when you said the law over there is not like it is in the United States, not like it used to be
right.
in the United States.
That's right.
Not like it was when we grew up and what have you.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's horrible. Well, we hope we wish you well. And, when you're in those countries, you have to stay away from certain things.
Yeah.
I had a couple of friends of mine, guys I knew that played basketball in a couple of those countries. And they were saying how you could not even, especially in the Muslim countries, you couldn't even look at the women.
Right.
Because that was just a no-no. So I don't know. I wish him well.
Yeah. So let's all of us keep him in our thoughts and prayers and his family, given this situation. Yeah.
And hopefully that'll be a lesson to other young brothers, because, we have a lot of young guys who, they don't make it in the NBA right away. And so, but they can play around the world now. Really, basketball is the world game. And either in South America or over in that part of the world or what have you. They just have to be careful and understand what's happening in those countries. So, Barbara, what you got?
Tom, I want to say congratulations to Jamal Roberts. I don't know if you guys heard about Jamal Roberts, who won this year's American Idol contest. Jamal is a 27-year-old PE teacher from Meridian, Mississippi, who had tried out for a different musical contest in the past, Sunday's Best. I think he tried out for Sunday's Best twice and got turned down, wasn't even allowed on the show, and of course tried out for American Idol this year and won. So I want to say congratulations to that young man. He's very talented, and I think he'll have a wonderful career. If you haven't had a chance to check out his music, check it out on YouTube because he is really phenomenal. He's the first black male to win American Idol since Ruben won 20 years ago, which is unbelievable. I couldn't believe that. But yeah, you know, music is a male-dominated career, and especially for black men. And so to see that he was the first black man to win it in 20 years, I was really shocked. But because I haven't really kept up with the show that much, but this year he was such a talented person. I think they just couldn't deny him the opportunity to win.
Okay, now.
Yeah.
I don't watch it, so I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and congratulations to Vanderbilt, who won the SEC baseball tournament this year. As I stated earlier, the baseball tournament was held here in Birmingham this past year, here in Hoover, actually, this past week. And Vanderbilt beat Ole Miss on Sunday to win the championship. So congratulations to the Vandies.
Michael, you got anything else?
I do. You know, people do not understand why a lot of us are weary about going to a doctor, to visit a doctor. A 68-year-old mission doctor was sentenced Wednesday to federal prison in connection with a $240 million healthcare fraud and international money laundering scheme. Jorge Quezada was sentenced to 10 years, minus 7 for time served. He's been ordered to pay $28 million in restitution to taxpayer-funded insurance programs. And what he did was he administered unnecessary treatments, including medicine commonly used to treat cancer, to at least 10,000 patients he falsely diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and other degenerative diseases. He and his co-conspirators made over $240 million in fraudulent claims to multiple healthcare programs, which resulted in him being paid $50 million.
Wow.
Wow.
And this guy he's over in Texas and stuff. This is from the Southern District of Texas. So, you know, there's all this talk about the cost of healthcare and the cost of medication. And wrongly, a lot of insurance agents and brokers receive the wrath of all of that. Insurance agents and brokers do not set the cost, but then rarely do they ever look at the providers. And this is a doctor, and look at what he's doing. Just think about how much he's contributed to the cost of medication.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a long ways to go to fix our healthcare system. Yes, it's broken, but it's not all on the shoulders of agents and brokers or insurance companies itself. Providers need to be looked at. It's a whole program that needs to be looked at.
I agree.
You're in that business, so I'm sure you're pushing and promoting certain types of thinking.
Oh yes, absolutely. You have to. You have to. Yeah.
Appreciate you bringing those thoughts to us. So, and hopefully
Yes.
the audience appreciate it, because everybody, you know, is in that situation. Everybody has to have insurance at some point in time for some or another.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up, Tom, because the last speech I gave, I said, healthcare is not a partisan issue. You know,
Right.
Republicans, Democrats, independents, everyone needs insurance, whether it's healthcare, liability insurance, or what have you. So this is one space we should be able to do what's best for the constituents, which is all of us, rather than having politics play a role into what is done and what's not done.
And I think, and I'll just take a shot at that too. particularly in Florida, where it's very, very difficult to get homeowners insurance
Yes.
because of the storms, even though maybe you've never been hit by one, or maybe you got hit by one 25 years ago and you're still being punished. Uh, and when the politicians focus on everything but that, you telling me if you're the governor, you can't have some influence over homeowners insurance for people, and people are suffering over with that, and you're not trying to do anything about it. Yeah, that's doesn't set too well with me, obviously.
Right.
Understood. Understood. I agree with you 100%. There are things that can be done, and you have to get, you have to have what's called uh, proactive leadership rather than reactive leadership.
I agree.
Yes.
And to have proactive leadership, you have to do some work.
Right.
And a lot of people that are elected in these positions, they come into a position to just get along and use that as a platform to the next opportunity
Right.
and try not to create any waves. But I think they will find if they were to actually do their jobs and represent the people they're elected to represent, the rest of it will take care of itself.
You're asking for too much, Michael.
Do their jobs.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I can't remember who it was, but I saw where some representative had finally retired. What did they serve? 2-year terms? He served 9 terms. And I mean, in 9 terms, I'd love to see what it is that he accomplished.
Probably not very much.
Yeah. Anyway, anything else from you guys? Okay, well, let's see if Sean's got a minute for us. Sean, are you out there somewhere? Good morning.
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Yesterday was Memorial Day, a day for remembrance of those who died in service to our country. Originally called Decoration Day from the earlier tradition of decorating graves with flowers, wreaths, and flags. During the first national commemoration, former Union General and sitting Ohio Congressman James Garfield made a speech at Arlington National Cemetery, after which 5,000 participants helped to decorate the graves of more than 20,000 Union and Confederate soldiers who were buried there. In his speech, he said, "We do not know one promise these men made, one pledge they gave, one word they spoke. But we do know they summed up and perfected by one supreme act the highest virtues of men and citizens. For love of country, they accepted death and thus resolved all doubts and made immortal their patriotism and their virtue." James A. Garfield, May 30th, 1868, Arlington National Cemetery. Thank you for your service. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
Thank you, Sean. So let's go to our A list, our G list. Hollywood's got the A list. We don't have the A list. So here on Tuesdays with Tom, we have the G list. Now, G list guest today is Dr. Horace Whittaker. Dr. Whittaker is a native of Tuskegee, Alabama, where he began his teaching career. He has taught at every level of public education from pre-K through higher ed, including urban and rural school systems in Alabama and Connecticut. That gave Dr. Whittaker richly diverse experiences that led to his research interest in African American child readiness. The children's book, We Are Humankind, is an outgrowth of his unique research that birthed ecological consciousness theory, which is introduced in the book by way of vivid images and easily understood text designed for children ages pre-K through 9 years of age. And we certainly want to hear about ecological consciousness theory this morning. Good morning, Dr. Whittaker. Are you with us out there?
Good morning, Tom.
How you doing?
We are well, brothers, as
How
my
are
father
you?
would say, better than ever,
Uh-oh.
brother.
We got a little difficulty. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear
Yes,
you.
yes, we can hear him.
I
we
can
hear
hear
you.
you.
Yeah. Okay, good deal. Well, great to have you with us this morning. We're going to start off. Barbara's going to start off. She's got a question for you, and if you want to just give us some, well, let's just start with you giving us a little bit of background on ecological consciousness theory.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, Tom. And again, we'd like to say thank you for uh, leading the way, creating opportunities for ourselves by the commitment that you took upon yourself to be the first. And those who have taken that very serious challenge have provided the opportunity that we can now uh, take advantage of. Ecological consciousness theory is built on some fundamental ideas that our African ancestors, who were the first people to walk on the earth, granted us some basic fundamental values. And these values have been passed on through generation after generation to all of humanity. The basic idea is the first people who walked on the planet, they valued the group, safety in numbers. And out of that, learning to live, valuing each other, they also understood that collaboration was very important. So we see two fundamental values that come out of human development: valuing humanity and valuing working together. Later on, as they continue to grow and develop, they developed an idea around spirituality, recognizing that they were a part of a living symbiotic system, right? They needed fresh air, they needed fresh water, they needed plant life and animal life on land and in the water in order to survive. Our ancestors saw themselves as a part of the living order. And so out of that idea of spirituality, what we find the outcome is a good person, a person whose choices and whose decisions enhances the group, as opposed to making decisions and choices that put the group at risk. And so when our ancestors left the continent, they not only took their skills with them, they took their values with them. And these values were populated across the earth. And pretty much humanity operates valuing humanity, valuing collaboration, valuing spirituality, and being good people. They operate that way pretty much up until about the 16th century Enlightenment period. And in that time, European males rebelling against feudalism and the authority of the Roman Catholic Church make a decision to, rather than value the group, they decide it's better to value individual rights. Rather than value collaboration, they decide competition is going to be the way humans ought to relate. And that is drawn out of this pseudo Darwinism, survival of the fittest. And also, rather than spirituality, what we find is a type of idolatry, a type of self being the major decision point in terms of relating. And then lastly, we find in our world today, personal achievement at all costs really undergirds most of the activities that we are imposed upon us today. So we see these two ideas in competition, and we suggest that the value system that comes from the people that on the planet is a value system that will be sustainable, not only for human relations with each other, but also for the survival, but also for our survival on the planet.
Michael, you got a question?
I certainly do. And Dr. Whittaker, we certainly appreciate you being here and all of the research that you've put into the theory of ecological decisions. I really appreciate that. But let me
Yeah.
ask you, I saw where you've done a lot of work where it's from ages pre-K through 9 years of age.
Yeah.
And I can see that you're trying to teach them as they're younger to make these good decisions and what have you. But I'd like to ask you, what's your position on charter schools and
Mm-hmm.
school vouchers
Mm-hmm.
nowadays?
Well, that has been an ongoing topic for over 40 years in the U.S. I support private charters. If groups of individuals want to use their private funds in order to provide educational opportunities, that is within their right to do so. If they're granted a charter by the local educational authority, the LEA, that's fine. We do not support public charters, those charters that would take money already allocated for our public schools, which have been under stress for the last 50 years in terms of resourcing and financing. We don't support public charters. We do recognize there are settings where alternatives to traditional approaches to education need to be found, but we suggest that those should be financed privately and not take taxpayers' dollars. For example, I've lived in communities, and right now in this administration that we're faced today, you see a push by conservatives now to have public funds pay for religious education. Many times, sadly, brother, some of our European American brothers and sisters have chosen to use public school funds in order to build schools that we can't access. Basically, it's asking Black people to pay for segregation. We don't support those type activities. We think public dollars that are taken from all of us should be used to promote public education for all of us.
It's interesting that you put it that way, because I myself have often looked at the legislators in Alabama that are making it illegal to use public dollars to fund anything that's related to DEI or
Mm-hmm.
African American studies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
Mm-hmm.
said, well, then why should people that benefit from those programs, why should they have to pay taxes when the taxes do not represent us as it does other people?
Well, you're absolutely correct, and Michael, I'm so glad you mentioned that issue. It is very problematic from a taxation situation, but it is also problematic, we suggest, from a moral standpoint, to be anti-diversity. Okay, if we look around right now in our rooms, what do we see? We see difference. We suggest in ecological consciousness theory that diversity is the default of life. If you look outside, you don't see one thing, you see difference. So difference is fundamental. So for us to say that we're going to be anti-difference, which is what we're saying when we say anti-diversity, we're really promoting a single identity, a single way of thinking, a single approach, and those who divert from that single idea and single approach are deemed unimportant. And so I concur with you wholeheartedly that we must support diversity, equity, inclusion. This is a fundamental understanding for most of us that diversity, equity, inclusion has now been used as a cudgel, right, to promote a political agenda. That same agenda that pretty much says that if we who have fought against racism and oppression in order to build a more democratic America, to push for those rights, we are discriminating against others. Well, that's not true. That was the same argument around affirmative action. The fact that we would create policies and create opportunities for people who have been excluded, that's now being called racism. It's a total reversal of our understanding. And those like yourself and those of us, we know a canard when we see one.
Yes, yes, we do.
I like that. Okay. Michael, are you good, Michael?
Yes, I'll let Barbara go on, and then Dr. Whittaker and I come back at another one in a minute.
Yes.
Thank you, brother.
Barbara?
Yes, and thank you so much, Dr. Whittaker. I agree with both you and Michael. I want to ask you about your decision to become an educator. As of today, less than probably 1% of public school teachers are Black men. So, what inspired you to become an educator? And thank you so much for doing that.
I must say I agree with Tom's opening. It's because I was blessed to have a great father. I was blessed to have a great father who was born in 1922. My father served in the military. He was a POW in World War II, liberated by General Omar Bradley. He was captured and served in concentration camp for all intents and purposes in Italy.
Wow.
But he as a child, we had black and white TV. But my father would walk through the room, Barbara, and he'd say, "Son, how many blacks do you see?" I'm a little bitty boy.
Right.
And he would say, "Son, how many blacks do you see?" And of course, the answer, 1963, the answer in 1965 was zero,
Right.
not to mention any umpires, anything of that nature. So my father was a tech sergeant. Basically, he was an instructor.
Mm.
And so he raised my consciousness around Black people, affirming our ancestry and ethnicity. My father would be what they used to call Paul Robeson and guys of that nature. He was a race man. And so, Barbara, I come by it naturally.
Yeah.
I can't take any credit for it. We are just in that lineage, and but we are grateful that during my experience in public education, elementary and secondary schools, I had seen a growth since when I started in 1998. I had seen more and more males enter the field.
Yes. Yes.
And it's important that African American males be in those education spaces. We bring so much, not only in terms of our knowledge base and our commitment, but also to be seen as nurturers and comforters as well.
Yes.
That's an aspect of Black maleness that is not readily seen in media representations of us.
Right.
But when I was in the public school and a child comes over and wants to come between your legs and say good morning and they need a hug, right? Well, you have to be that person.
Right.
And I must say, I became more of what God wanted me to be by being a teacher. I don't know who got more from it, the children or me.
That's great.
It is. And I can remember, you think about all those years in school, the only Black males were the janitors.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
now. But we were taught to respect the janitors.
Oh, yes,
It was
sir.
always Mr. Brown or
Right.
Wallace or whatever. You
Right.
had to give total respect, which was due.
Yes.
Most of the time, those men were very capable of doing other things as well. But that was
You're
where
right.
they were limited.
You're right, Tom. You're absolutely correct. And a lot of times, as you said, sometimes those males had to take jobs that were readily available, not necessarily jobs suited to their training or even suited to their abilities. But that also showed the degree of their care and concern, that they would be willing to, in many cases, to work jobs that they may not have been trained to do, but they knew that they had to provide for their families. They knew that they had to provide for their children. So we're grateful, as you said, to all of these men who have been just highlights and encouragers of us.
Before I go back to Michael, I want to just ask you one thing.
Yeah.
You have been an actor, a band leader, a composer, and music publisher. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, yes, matter of fact, I was trained as my mother's side of the family is the creative side. My mother sang, my grandparents sang, grandfather sang, and so we were brought up singing in the church, of course. And we went on and majored in music at Alabama State University, and we produced our first record while we were still in college, working with a brother named Bill Perry, who will be playing in Birmingham, if I'm not mistaken, for the Alabama Jazz Association. But today, we released, just in November, we've released our new album entitled Soul Music. People can find it on our website at thoughtsforliving.com, but also it's on all of your digital platforms. Had an opportunity to work with some fantastic artists. I think one person who you've had on your show, Tom, Brother Kari Allen Lee.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. He's dynamic musician. He's featured on this album. He's also an arranger on this album. We also had the pleasure to work with a fantastic co-producer, Mr. Calvin Finner, a lot of artists out of Atlanta. So that's our latest project. And we just released our new video called Speak Up, and it's out on YouTube right now. But music is, we call ourselves an educational artisan. So art is really the basis of where everything else comes from, Tom.
Okay. Michael?
Okay, Dr. Whittaker, let me ask you this question, and I'll try and bring both of these questions together. You can comment on each other. First is your perspective or position on all male and all female high schools and that education. And then the other part of it is, I think we kind of need to get back to basics. You remember there was a time where you could take a shop curriculum in high school and learn how to develop technical skills if you did not have, say, the desire to go to a four-year institution and have home economics. Now that's no longer a part of it. So you have people that may not be on that track to go to college, or it may not fit their personality. Then where do they go and what do they do? So
again, Michael, you're on long-standing questions that educators and leaders in the educational field are still grappling with. I think we haven't resolved from an administrative standpoint, but I think teachers and people at the local level and ground floor really have resolved that issue. The answer is both. There are settings and there are situations where students may need to be in homogeneous settings in order for their own individual makeup, because it may help them focus better. I've worked in schools where, particularly say in music, sometimes you may have a Glee Club boy choir and you may have a Glee Club girl choir. Matter of fact, I think we have fantastic musicians at Auburn, Dr. Horace Dunn and Dr. William Powell. They write for SSA, which would be sopranos and altos, and then they might write pieces that are just for males. So there are opportunities where having just homogeneous classes would be preferred, and for certain students who have certain kinds of adjustments that they need to make. In general, though, we support traditional framing of education. Boys need to learn how to treat females. Absent their presence, that's difficult, and vice versa. We human beings are created social creatures, and we learn to become human only in relation to each other. And so I'm a proponent of traditional framing. Now, I would say what we would add, Michael. In my experience, I believe it's especially K-3. And if we were building private charter schools, from K-3, I would have a male and female teacher. I would have a master teacher and a novice teacher, right? But male and female. Why? Because not only are we able to provide the content that's needed for children to learn, children also see males, adult males, and women relating to each other, so that we carry those lessons along with us, as well as content information. To your other point, I remember, and Tom, you may remember when we were coming up, if you went to what we used to call Future Farmers of America?
Yeah.
Oh, that was us, right? I mean, when you went to that in those communities that were still agrarian to a certain extent, that was us. We were there. By the time I became a teacher, we had started seeing a transition where the cultural influence was driving us away from the vocational, right? It pulled us away from the vocational, and other ethnicities started moving into the vocational. What we need to do is promote the aspect of technological skills, which include plumbing, carpentry, electricians. I don't care how technologically advanced we get, you can't leave it out in the rain.
That's right.
you can't leave it in the rain. So you're gonna have to have somebody to build a structure. And so those and we know those basic skills are vital in our continued development. Now, I will say one caveat, Michael. What we've seen lately, reported, the fact that the masses of people who are now graduating in higher ed are women. A lot of those women who are graduating from higher ed are Black and Latino. And now we're starting to hear what? It doesn't take all of that.
Mm-hmm.
We're hearing now, we're seeing an attack on higher education. And excuse me for saying so, but sometimes I have to speak colloquially to get the point across. As long as predominantly white males were graduating from universities, we always understood as Africans that education was the way up for us. It was always important in our homes and communities, and it was valued by the society as long as white males were the predominant graduates. Now that white males are no longer the predominant graduates, and that's a social component to that, and that's because that's the introduction of gaming. So young white males, right, they're not involved in books. They're involved with gaming. And so now who's graduating from college is no longer white and male. And so now we're hearing this argument about higher ed is not important. Mm-hmm. And not only it doesn't take 4 degrees, take a 4-year degree in order to be successful in the country. We are attacking intellectualism. We are attacking higher ed as though it is some harmful aspect of human society. And that's associated with the protests, in many cases led by young Jews against the genocide taking place in Palestine and in Gaza with our Palestinians. And so they have used this opportunity to attack higher education. But we have to understand and remember that higher education has always been, education in general has always been important in the African American community. Those who have the acumen, those who want to go, I think we need to be having conversations about how we can provide those opportunities, Tom, without necessarily having federal assistance in the climate that we're in, where federal assistance is being withdrawn. And we need to provide opportunities and skills for opportunities for our children to develop skills as it relates to technology, plumbing, construction, and otherwise. I think the climate that we're in is going to call us back in a lot of ways to behaviors that we had pre-integration.
I would agree.
Yes.
Can you just maybe illuminate a little bit on behaviors we had pre-integration?
Yes, Tom. You and I, and I'm sure Barbara and Michael, we are from a generation where our ancestors, because of racism, white supremacy, had to create institutions and opportunities outside of the larger context. I'm from Tuskegee, Alabama, where in that community, those African Americans used their political will to establish an institution of higher learning. That community, when I grew up, the doctors that I saw were Black, the teachers I engaged were Black, the businesses where we went and bought our clothes, our shoes, were Black. We used our skills and talents and abilities to develop and to be a community. I mean, when we say community, I'm not just talking about the emotional aspect of community. I'm talking about the physical, material things necessary to uphold a people. And we developed those things. And of course, it can be argued that once, and Tom, this is not to diminish anyone who, we believe integration was a good thing and is a good thing. But certainly, I think to take the approach that an either or, I think we see now where putting all of our eggs in one basket, per se, now leaves some communities in a situation where when you have a federal government that's pulling back resources, well, the question is, who's going to provide your public education? Who's going to provide the nursing care for your senior citizens? Who's going to provide the nursery schools? If your federal government no longer sees it's important to provide these resources for Black people, then Black people are going to have to do it for ourselves. And the good thing about it is we've done it before. So this would not be something new to us. We were reared in those kinds of contexts. But we would hope that politically it will not come to that we will perform our civic duties in the next coming 2 years and vote in such a way as to reestablish our continued approach toward more free, more just, and more equitable demonstration of values in this society.
So glad you came on this morning.
Yes. Yes.
Michael, did you have one more thing? Let me just say one thing. I just finished. We're doing a book on James Owens. James Owens was the first African American football player at the university. But not just on James, it's on the whole integration of SEC football. And when you look at the true integration of SEC football, SEC sports, particularly those first guys who came along,
Yeah.
very few graduated, some died,
Mm.
some were stars from their community and they went to these schools and they weren't stars anymore.
Yeah.
And so then that begged the question was, who did integration benefit? Did it benefit the institution? Yes. Did it benefit those individual guys? No. Did it benefit their families? No. Did it benefit their communities? No.
No.
And so it's really interesting, just thinking on what you just said, as to what James always said. He had a saying. He said integration to him was like being dropped behind enemy lines.
Oh, that's the truth.
You know, because
That's the
there was
truth.
that, when you're the only, and
Yes.
you know, being an only is no fun.
No, no, it's
I was
not.
an only for a long time.
Right.
Being an only is very, very difficult to navigate and negotiate.
Yes, yes. Tom, to your point, we had to do that. That era in our progression was claiming our citizenship rights.
Yes.
Our citizenship rights demanded that we be treated as citizens, with the fullness of that aspect, access and otherwise. And so that period had to take place. What we see now, though, in some cases, what the system does, and let me go to ECT. What ECT says, Tom, biologically, our bodies are designed to maintain themselves, to keep us alive. Everything in your body, your heart, your lungs, your skin is designed to keep you alive. And if something comes into your system to try to destabilize you, you have something called antibodies. We extrapolate that idea and apply it to social systems. This system that we live in and that we characterize as white supremacist and global, everything in this system is designed to keep it alive. Homes, schools, places of worship, and institutions. And if something comes into that system to try to destabilize that system, the system has what? Antibodies. Now, that's how we describe the context that we're in. Now, one thing about that is that what we did in pushing the system is like making a cut on your body. And what does your body do after you get a cut? It's going to restore itself. It's going to heal. What we are experiencing today, brothers and sisters, is the system trying to restore itself, to heal, to go back as it was, right? To go back, right, like things were before. And so we take this is a biological idea that we see in this system, right, that we call the ecological context. So what do we do in this context where the system now is trying to restore the cuts and the breaks that we made as people demanding that we be part of it? What we have to do now is go back to what we've done before. What did we do before? You said it in your opening, Tom. We created opportunity. So, in other words, a sister Eiffel spoke at the church. I'm a member of the African Methodist Episcopal Church in Washington, D.C., that sued the Proud Boys and won. And the sister spoke there and she said, you know what? She said, we've been living off the harvest. All of us, Tom, have been living off the harvest of those who came before us and created these opportunities. Now it's time for us to plant. Now it's time for us to plant. Now it's time for us to plant.
Yeah.
Even in our nadir, we created institutions. The Black Renaissance took place when? Not in the 1970s, in the 1920s.
Right.
So we are back. Okay, we are back, and it's time to plant. And what we're dealing with is either we're going to deal with opportunity and planting, or as y'all said at the beginning of the show, are we going to deal with spammers? Spammers who are trying to promote lies, spammers who are trying to trick us to take advantage of us. We have to recognize the difference between the two and then act accordingly. We feel that value in the group, value in collaboration, value in spirituality and personhood is the value system that would undergird our decision making, that we create the type of world that we want to see and that our children want to have.
Okay. Michael, are you good?
I'm good. Dr. Whittaker and I can go on for hours. So
You're right, brother. You're right.
Dr. Whittaker, it's awesome. I hope that we can visit. I come through Montgomery quite often.
Please.
And I'm going to introduce you to Stefan. He may be on here, but I hadn't seen him in our chat room this morning, but he is on. I'd love for you to meet him. You guys can probably do some things in common there in Montgomery.
Yes, yes, certainly.
It's been brilliant. It's been awesome. Thank you for. We had a weekend of rest and relaxation, and you got us going again.
Time to plant.
brother, you're doing it. You're doing it. You're doing it. We hope we can grow up and take advantage of best girls. What you provide in terms of that. We're just a little green plant that's broke the ground, but after a while we'll be able to call on you, brother.
I hear you. Okay, is that we got to roll on? So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom, for the opportunity.
It was really, really great. Thank you so much. I'm gonna let's give Dr. Whittaker a hand here, Sean. Thank you very much, man. So my closing comment for today, or as I see it, and I think it is fitting, I started off by talking about some of the influential men in my life. And I purposely had mentioned a man I call my buddy. My buddy was my daddy. He was special to me. He gave me what he had, but more importantly, he taught me to be a good man. My dad worked 35 years at a Sitco piping founder. I don't believe he ever missed a day. One of his quotes is, "You don't work, they don't pay you." So I'll tell one great story about my dad, Doc Gossam. And that story is about the snow day. It was a snowstorm in Birmingham where we lived. Snow came down pretty thick. It was very difficult to maneuver. The town shut down pretty much. And my parents lived where they lived. The driveway was on the incline. So I was working at the phone company then. I was an adult, and we didn't go in that day. Nobody could get to their jobs, and so I called my parents, and I talked to my mom for a while, make sure everything was all right, and then I said, "Well, how about let me talk to Daddy for a little while." She said, "Your daddy's going to work." I said, "My daddy's going to work? How did he get to work? How did he get that car at the driveway?" She said, "He left here at 3 o'clock this morning walking." He said, "If you don't work, they don't pay you." And that evening in the newspaper, there was a silhouette of a man walking down a railroad track on his way to a Sitco. And that was my dad. You don't work, they don't pay you. When I became an adult, we always referred to each other as buddies. I was his buddy, he was my buddy. He would greet me, "Hey buddy, how you doing?" And I would say I would greet him. One day we were having a pretty serious talk about one of the guys I had grown up with who had gone to jail for something. And he said, buddy, let me tell you something. If you ever go to jail, he said, I'll come and get you out. And I'll get you out for anything but stealing and violating a woman. He said, those are two things you never have to do. I've never been to jail. My buddy passed a few years ago. He was 96 years old. And I thank my buddy every day for what he taught me, for what he gave me, and to all the men who made a difference in my life. And that's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. We want to thank our G-list guest, Dr. Whittaker. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thanks again to the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, Michael, and Joyce. And that's it for this May 27th in the year 2025. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Blessings and peace.